Welcome to the ninth Worthy Online Rally for Hope and Kindness. We do these every month. If this is your first time, welcome, welcome. Every last Saturday of the month, we get together with around 5 to 7 inspiring humans that will tell stories of courage, perseverance, kindness, defying the odds, whatever comes from their heart. And it's just humans like me and you. So anyone and everyone is open to come and tell their stories here. Our hope is to empower and inspire others to do the same. And hopefully you leave today with a nugget of additional inspiration to pay it forward so others have the courage to really be proud of who they are. So that's why we're here today. So many awesome people. Welcome if you've been here before. I love seeing you. A lot of people from Houston Writers Guild, shout out to them. Soul Shifters, hello. People from Dare to Be, hello. So many people. Humans First, oh my gosh, I could go on and on and on. So many people. So I love that you're here. We have an amazing lineup. And the lineup today, I was summarizing what all these beautiful humans have in common. I believe they're all positive disruptors in what they do. They're all very different in how they put their footprint into the world, but they all are very much the same in that they lead with heart and they just are here to make a difference and help others. Before we get into them, because they are truly the stars of the show, I want to just do a little bit of logistics of how it's going to work. So every storyteller will have about 5 to 7 minutes to tell their story. I will not keep track of time. It's up to them because some of these stories get quite powerful. So it will be up to them to keep track of time. I ask people to mute themselves when they tell their stories, but while they're telling their stories, if you feel like you're connecting or you've been there before, or you feel like it's an aha moment that you just got, or if you feel maybe that the speaker has gone back to that time and place of telling their story way back when, and they're feeling emotional, give them a heart. Give them either a heart, old-fashioned way like this, or find in digitally, give them a digital heart to just push them forward, keeping them moving and saying that you relate, I understand you, you're awesome, I care for you. So that's how this is going to work. At the very end, we'll see what time we have left over, and we'll go into a breakout room so we can get to know each other and discuss some of our learnings and insights. Sound good? Give me thumbs up. All right. So I wanted to start off. Many of you have been so incredibly sweet reaching out to me because I do live in Houston. A lot of you I know live in Houston too. And it's been crazy, a little bit crazy weather last week. As you know, we've had a blackout, which is ridiculous because of the cold, unusual cold weather. But thankfully, we're all okay and we're moving forward. During that blackout, I wanted to share a story. We had 4 days without electricity. And during that time, as a normal human, you go through emotions and realize the things that you really took for granted, the things that perhaps you thought were the main focus of your world, but then you realize once all that is gone, they're not. Without electricity, there's so many things that I wasn't able to do, obviously. Without electricity, there were not such conveniences around that I was used to doing without even thinking twice. It really went back and made you think about survival, about staying healthy, staying warm, making sure your family, which is to me, my epitome, my heart, comes first in everything I do, purposely. So within that time, and we found ourselves, going back to, like, I guess the good old days. You lived by candlelight. You played old-fashioned games. You spoke. You were forced to talk, even with teenagers. So it was quite a ride. and before we know it, I mean, you came through with emotions of frustration and anger and sometimes fear, because you didn't know how long this was going to last and if people were going to get sick, um, or it was going to become unsanitary. But during those times, I remember there were times feeling a roller coaster of emotions, but there was a time when I just felt completely lost because I didn't know what to do with myself. And I felt like I didn't have, like I couldn't control the situation and do something that'll help it. But I was really wrong, because every single day I prayed, and I'm a huge component in believing in my journey and trusting the journey. So I had to remind myself of that. And even though I was praying every day, oh, please, God, let us get through this, let our electricity come back, let us, our pipes not burst, let our neighbors be okay, uh, make sure not so many people suffer through this ridiculousness and scary time. I kept praying and praying, and no electricity the next day, and still no electricity the next day. And I was getting really scared and frustrated. And then it dawned on me, what if this is just another lesson? I mean, life is just full of lessons. So the moment that I stop focusing so hard on what I want, and the moment that I start trusting my journey and looking at the actually becoming aware of the lesson that's presented to me, then perhaps that is the way out. And not necessarily that I'll get my way, but it's the way out to having more peace and happiness and living in the moment and accepting it. Um, and what came to me when I woke up this morning was a quote. It just came to my head, and it's faith isn't about getting what you want. It's about trusting you will receive what you need. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, that is so true. So the moment that I started to trust that everything will be okay, we're going to take advantage of this moment and live it to its potential. I started to let go. I went out of my bedroom rather than being all, feeling sorry for myself and my family and being under all these covers and all this because I was cold. I went out and I'm like, Gianna, she's my 9-year-old. I'm like, Gianna, how about we play this game? We haven't played this one in a while. Let's get all of our board games out, the ones that we haven't played yet, and let's just play all of them. Let's have a marathon. And we started to do that. And after I continued and started to do that game after game after game. We were having a marathon. We were laughing so hard. Guess what? We forgot about our circumstances. Then we just started chasing the dogs, and we started to randomly make up this game called tag with the dogs. She was laughing so hard, and I was laughing so hard. It's been so long since we've laughed that hard. And we were so caught up in the game that we didn't realize that the electricity had come on. Upstairs there was light, and we didn't realize that until all of a sudden we were kicking the ball and we looked up and we're like, oh my gosh, it's on. And we just kept playing. So what did that moment teach us? Oh my goodness, it was a lesson that when you let go of what you so think you should have in that moment, or what you think you deserve in that moment, and just let it flow, trust the journey, see what's around you and see what the beauty is around that and what you can do with that. That was such a huge lesson to me, that indeed faith isn't about getting what you want, it's about trusting you will receive what you need. And ever since that, it's been so much better. So think about that when you and we all will be, and I will continue to have challenging situations. Think about that the next time you feel that way. It takes patience and it takes self-awareness. So I want to welcome Stephen DeSadie that just joined. Stephen is from Australia. It's 3 in the morning and he just joined. So I am just so blessed to have him here. Thank you so much, Stephen, for being here. He's an amazing mentor. So I'm going to start out with our first speaker, which all these people are amazing individuals. Maxine. Maxine, I've met through Humans First, which is an amazing organization. Again, if you're not aware of it, Humans First .club. And Maxine really stood out to me ever since she spoke the very first time in that Humans First meeting that I joined. She spoke about health and awareness. She's really into reprogramming yourself to really achieve the best version of you and live life to your fullest purpose. And there's just this strength about Maxine, this resilience this inner soul, this inner drive to really do what's right and to fight adversity. And I could see that strength the first time that she spoke the first word. So I am really excited to have Maxine. She's a huge inspiration to me. Maxine, welcome.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you for being here. And I just, want to wish the storytellers and the audience, when you leave this, your vibration of love is going to be very, very on par today. And as we get together and share our stories and see the power of love, my wish and my intent is for us to carry it into our daily lives and build on it each and every moment. My name is Maxine, and 1 year ago, I was homeless, I was hopeless, and I was heartbroken. This is where my story starts, 20 years back. I'm enjoying lunch with an ex-work colleague and the phone rings. Maxine, you got to come back to the office. It's an emergency. That 15-minute drive felt like 2 hours. Mark, what is it? Is everything okay? Is my son Sloan okay? Maxine, it's Peter. Peter has been shot, and he's dead. 2 days later, I flew home from the airport to the morgue. That's the sound of my heart saying, please don't let it be him. Please don't let it be him. But it was him. What am I gonna do? We've only been back here for 8 months. All the business transactions, even the cars, they're in his name. We have a son. We have a 7-year-old son. No time to think, Maxine. As I remember what Les Brown said, in life, when you get knocked down, make sure you land on your back, because if you're on your back, you can look up. And when you can look up, you can get up. Get up, Maxine. Get up. I started to sell sandwiches on the streets. And within 10 years, that business afforded me the pleasure to send my son to university. It was my turn now. My turn to embrace my self-care. Because we know that self-care is the practice of our well-being and our happiness. And I was ready to put in the work to achieve that. Connecting with nature, eating well, working on my mind. I had this amazing business, a beautiful home. But maybe I didn't put in enough work, because something in me was still longing to feel completed. And I don't know how many women that are listening out there, but when you're in your late 40s and you're alone, no matter how much success that you have, society still tells you that you're not enough. So I started to look outside, and I found it. I found what I thought was the jackpot, this man that's going to complete me. I sold my business. I sold my home. And after meeting this man, within 1 year, I moved to a place that I never even heard of before. It didn't take long for the whispers to start. But how many of us listen to the whispers? How many of us go against our intuition? Do you hear the word there? In. But we tend to look out. Soon, the whispers turned into knocks. And we all know that once the knocks come, that means we are in too deep. But something inside me said, Maxine, trust the process, Maxine. Trust the process. I stayed with the process. And 7 years later, the process. I was ready to see the process, and the process revealed itself. Now, this is not a story about the mess, because when you get caught up in the mess, guess what? You never see the message. And for you to see the message, you have to do something you have not done before and that you have not been taught to do. You have to step into your pain. You have to step into the darkness because there is so much light in the darkness. And for all your meditation and for all your kind words, when you are ready to put it together and embrace it all, the darkness is a beautiful way for you to cover your eyes and open up your heart. And through my journey, I found that when I surrendered to my pain and I listened to myself, that this was a time to marry my trauma and my self-care. And what I mean by that was I started to look inwards. I started to go out into nature every day. Some days I would just cry. Some days I would just sit and listen to the birds. Then my eating, as I started to eat healthier and cleaner and start to cook meals for myself to say that you're worthy of the trouble. My healing increased with my wellness. And as I saw the connection, I started to go out more in nature. I started to walk. I became more present. I started to see the beauty of nature. How many of us correlate with the phrase that heaven is on earth? It is. It's in the form of nature because nature is a paradise. It's a paradise of all things working well together, just being in themselves. And when you're in nature, and you want to heal from a healing mind, you now learn to listen with your mind and speak with an open heart. Friends, I'm here to remind you that you are sacred. You are divinely perfect. It doesn't matter where you are right now. If you drew that line, whether it goes east, west, north, or south, move forward. Move forward to your divinity and see what your pain is teaching you. My name is Maxine. I identify with trauma warriors. I am a light worker, and I support women to become unstuck from toxic behaviors and limiting belief systems. And if you feel that there is a warrior in you, my space of love and kindness is open to you. That is my message.
Oh my goodness. Let's show Maxine some. Let's those hearts. Look Maxine. You have touched all of us. Your words are beyond words. It's an energy shift when you speak. It's you going right now, kicking us off is a gift. Um, thank you so much for sharing those words. So many good nuggets, so much truth. One of the things I wrote down, which really spoke to me, is when you get caught up in the mess, you never see the message. That's brilliant. And you've been through a lot, and yet you're still here. And the conviction and the passion in your words is really breathtaking. So thank you, Maxine. Next we have Deborah. Where's Deborah? There's Deborah. Deborah, I had the beautiful opportunity to meet also through Humans First, the UK calls. And Deborah just has this energy about her that's very positive. And I can tell that she wanted to make a huge difference from the first time I spoke with her. We spoke a few times, but she has some amazing ideas of how to engage others to be their best selves, especially when going through change. And I love that about her, and I love her creativity. And I know you have a podcast and other initiatives, Lead with Dragons, which is great. So Deborah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Andrea. Wow, what a beautiful introduction. I'm really touched. It was a dreary day in November 2019, just over a year ago. And at the time, I was working in a bank. I had quite an exposed, high-profile role. And that day, I badged in to the building, took the lift to the 7th floor. And at the time, we were hot desking. So from one day to the next, you'd come in with your laptop and then pick a different desk from the day before and then plug it in. So I find a desk, I plug in my laptop, and I sit there and I'm waiting for the laptop to kick in. And I see a cup of coffee on the desk that's full. And I'm thinking, wow, with the strict policy that we have, this person who was sitting at this very desk yesterday, must have left in a hurry, because it doesn't even look like that person even drank from the cup. And as I reached out to pick up that cup and take it to the kitchen, it was hot. And I'm like, oh, hang on a minute. Yes, I did go to that coffee machine. Where's my short-term memory gone? And the alarm bells started going, because I'm thinking, this is not okay. And I had been recently receiving signals like that of active disengagement, not being able to read emails, seeing one foot step in front of the other as I walked to work. So this was a time now where I thought, I need to really go and see my doctor. So I go to the doctor's office and he gives me the diagnosis. He says, Mrs. Abbott, you've been hit by a severe burnout. So when you hear those words, you're like, okay, yeah, I know what burnout is, but actually I don't know what it is. What does it really mean? So I said to him, okay, so how about if you give me a couple of weeks off sick? And he looks at me and he takes his glasses off with some kind of pity, and he says, Mrs. Abbott, I'd like to remind you that burnout is not project management. And the earlier you accept it, the earlier you will start to heal. So, and he said, okay, so you have a psychologist. I'm going to recommend a psychologist, and I'm going to also start subscribing antidepressants to you. And I felt, you know, after the shock of the coffee episode, I was now in denial. I thought, no way, especially me, I'm known, I'm very labeled as somebody very resilient at work and outside work. I'm a high achiever, I'm a maximizer. You know, how can this possibly, you know, it's not real. He's just trying to do his job and put a label on what he thinks I am. But I know I'll just bounce back, no problem. And I see my psychologist and she says, Deborah, you do know that you will never be able to function like you have done up till now. Wow, okay, that's another kind of slap in the face. And I'm like, okay, how long is this going to be? Because I haven't got time and I've got to get back to work at some point. Then comes January, so 3 months into the diagnosis. And it's a beautiful January morning and I'm at home. So I'm still on sick leave. I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to be doing. And I get a phone call and it's my doctor and he says, yes, hello. So I'm just looking at your file and I've noticed that you've been refusing antidepressants now for 3 months. I've had a visit from the insurance company and I think we need to start talking about your hospitalization. So when he said that, I thought of my kids, and I was going into a place that was very unknown to me. I didn't know what my rights were. I didn't know what was going on. In fact, I felt in danger. And that's when I really went into, right, all the way down I did. And from that point, I thought, right, okay, Deborah, do you get the message now? I think now we're going to start surrendering. Now you're going to just start letting go. It is not project management. There are no milestones. There's no start date, end date. There's no management of anything. And as a high achiever that I've been known to be, it was probably the tallest feat ever to really let go. And so when we moved into the spring of 2020, I started doing things that I never did before. And people would often tell me, yes, you know, be kind to yourself. I actually didn't know what that meant until then. And I started feeling a lot more patient. I learned to be patient with myself and I learned to be kind to myself. And I started really appreciating the little things. I picked up my kids' paint brushes and paints and I just started painting. Never did any painting before, just started doing it. I painted a tree in the garden. I painted a vase of tulips that my neighbor, a lovely lady over the road had just offered to me, just like that. And I moved slowly into recovery. I also built a vegetable patch with my neighbor and with my daughter Selma. And I learned from planting that little seed and to watch them actually bud. I mean, the appreciation and the reverence towards nature is just something that I had never really, truly appreciated because I had never slowed down properly. So, and as I recovered slowly, day by day, and it was, in fact, I think the key here is that I really let go. I had no more expectations. I had none left. And I just lived day by day, day in, day out. I didn't wait, how long is this pain going to last for? You know, it's Friday. I didn't even look at the weeks, the days, the weeks anymore. And I had realized that I was so disconnected from myself. And the irony of it, as a leadership facilitator and working in organizations as a change catalyst and accompanying leaders to transform the way that they work together so that they're smarter and healthier environments, I realized that the irony of it is that I was at the very cause, not the cause, the symptoms of what I was trying to help others avoid. So one of the learnings from here, one of the key learnings is power. And I go back to the irony piece because it's my passion to empower others. And I realized that I had spent my entire life empowering others without empowering myself. And I learned through one of the teachers that I met along the way and who is still with me. He explained to me, he said, do you know what power is? Power is the ability to define. And I had given away my power to people around me all my life, and given them the ability to define me, who I am, whether it was my father, whether it was my siblings, whether it was my friends, whether it was my colleagues. And today I truly stand in the understanding of what to empower means. It's really reclaiming your own power and reclaiming that ability to define yourself. I also learned about fear, because fear is very much linked to power. And I had given up my fear, I'd given up my power, out of fear. I had given away to others their ability to define me because I was scared of being not approved. I was scared of not being appreciated. I was scared of not being loved. So from here, I started leading dragons, and it's an invitation for each and every one of us to stand in our power. And it takes so much courage. I think it takes so much courage for a lot of us. And I ask these questions to people around me who want to step, and every day I look to step even more into my power as I watch, people who I bump into who I haven't seen for many years, who are still trying to define me. And I can recognize that. And just recognizing that, I believe it's the beginning of reconnecting with yourself. Thank you, Andrea.
Wow. Speaking of power, that was very powerful, Deborah. Thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing your story. I mean, it takes great self-awareness to go through the journey that you did. And that in itself is such inner strength and inner power. I mean, and you're absolutely right. When we give away our powers and people define it for us, we lose sight that we as humans have our own superpowers. Self-awareness is one, kindness is another. So that really made me think, and I could relate to a lot of what you said. How many people could relate to what Deborah said? Thank you, Deborah. You've ignited people to really think.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Next, we have Daniel. Daniel, I've actually known for a couple of years, but we've never met. We've never actually spoken on the phone. This is probably one of the first times. I mean, I know you've been in the rallies before, but the first times that we're actually speaking one-on-one. So it's amazing because the technology that we have today enabled me to meet probably the majority of you. We've met through Twitter and through a chat that I hold every Tuesday night called Dare to Be. If you're not familiar with Twitter chats, we pick a topic that hour and we have 10 questions, and we have a wonderful community that offers amazing insights to those questions, whether the topic be leadership, empowerment, whatever it may be. And Daniel has been there from the very beginning. We're going on 7 years of doing this. Wow. And his insights just blow me away. Not only does that, and he's incredibly wise, but he also is like the king of puns. And I would be surprised if he doesn't use a pun today. So, Daniel, it's such a pleasure to have you here. I really look up to you. I mean, I've shared my book of quotes with people here. Like I keep a notebook full of quotes, and there's so many of Daniel in there. And I have your name, Daniel Cyber, which you go by on Twitter. So many of those are in my book of quotes. So thank you for being here. It's an honor.
Well, thank you so much. This is indeed an honor, and be a part of this is amazing. My name is Daniel Buhr. I live in Minnesota. By day, I am an EHS information specialist at a Fortune 500 company. And by night, I am a leadership developer. With my leadership development work, what I'm primarily doing is working to develop our collective sense of what leadership is about. Working to dispel the myth that only managers can be leaders, and promoting the PAR principle that in leadership, we're all on par, P-A-R, that each and every one of us has the permission, the ability, and the responsibility to be leaders. My work on leadership really began back in 1999. I took a course on leadership at work. It was a 12-week course. We met once a week for 12 weeks. And there was about 10 or 12 of us in there. And it was a life-changing experience. It really opened my eyes to see that even I could be a leader. 7 years after I went through that course, I was going back through my notes, reviewing what I had learned in that course. And I came across a self-assessment that I had done at the very beginning. And the words on the page surprised me. Written there, it said, "I don't belong here." I didn't remember that I had ever felt that way, but I recognized the handwriting. It was my handwriting. I believe that was the only words I had on the page was, "I don't belong here." As I looked at the other people in the course, these were young stars of the company. They were people who had their lives together. Their careers were on track. They were doing exactly what they were wanting to do. And I was so different from them. Compared to them, my life wasn't so together. I didn't really even have a career. My career had fallen apart and I had just taken a job to make ends meet. I didn't see how I fit in there, how could I ever be a leader amongst these people? But in the 12 weeks, I came to see that these people were pretty unique themselves. And they each had their own doubts and their fears and their struggles. They had their unrealized dreams as well. And I came to learn that my uniqueness was not a weakness, that my uniqueness was in fact a strength. That what made me unique gave me a unique perspective, and it gave me a unique way of contributing. I did belong there. I mentioned that 7 years later, I was going through my notes. The reason I was going through my notes was because I was preparing to become an assistant facilitator of the course. And I've been doing that ever since. We hold the course twice a year when there isn't a pandemic. So I had gone from feeling like I didn't even belong as a student to being one of those that was teaching the course. Move ahead again a few years to about 2011, late 2010. I started getting involved in leadership development on social media as Cyber. I got involved in early tweet chats like Lead From Within with Lolly Daskell, Be the One, Lead with Giants with Dan Forbes and others. And it was a group of us from the Lead with Giants community that got together to work together to write and publish a book on how to energize your leadership. In the end, there were 16 of us on that project. Each of us wrote our own chapter, looking at different ways to energize your leadership. it was a neat experience. It was really a cool project. At the time that we published, none of us had ever met in person. We only knew each other from online, and all our meetings were held online. Nowadays, with 2020 and 2021, that's the norm. That was not the norm back then. And we were from 6 different countries all around the world. So it was a neat experience. In the course of that project, there were moments where I found myself thinking, I don't belong here. That same self-doubt started to creep back in again. I looked at the other ones on the project and wow, these were people who were doing leadership development professionally. They had formed their own consulting businesses. They were keynote speakers. They had authored other books. And then there was me. My leadership work is a side venture from my day job. I've never made a penny on my leadership work. It was tempting to think that I didn't belong. The imposter syndrome was setting in. But I had learned my lesson. Whenever that thought started to creep in, I immediately told myself, no, don't go there, Daniel. You do belong here. You just need to find your unique perspective, your unique contribution. And so that was my driver in being part of that project. They say that you should surround yourself with good people, with positive people, with strong, encouraging people. And that is certainly true. That provides fertile ground for us to grow. It can also be very intimidating being around strong people. It can make you think, what am I doing here? I don't belong here. But you have to remember, you do belong there, wherever you are. And maybe you're in a very different situation right now. Maybe you're in a place that is not very positive. Maybe you're in a place where there is little kindness to be found, where hope is dim. If you're there, you belong there. Wherever you're at, you belong there. First of all, that's where you're at. That's where you are. That's where you belong. And that is your starting point to move forward. That is where you're coming from. In that place, wherever you're at, you have your influence. You can be a leader. Don't start thinking that you need to be something else. There is only one thing that you need to be in order to be a leader, and that is you. That is the only thing you need in order to be a leader, is to be you. You can be the one that plants those seeds of kindness that blossom in hope. So that is my encouragement to you, that wherever you're at, you belong there. But don't be long there. Don't be there long. Maybe you're in a good place where you're able to make a contribution and you're enriched. I'm not saying you have to leave that environment, but continue to keep growing. How is it that Maxine put it? Move forward into your divinity, or something to that effect. Keep growing, build your abilities, build relationships of trust, strengthen them, and to know that you have a difference that you can make there. So you belong there and you can be a leader. Thank you, and lead on.
Lead on. Very well said, Daniel. And you did sneak in a pun. I saw that. Belong there, don't belong there. So I knew it. I knew it. That's always, I mean, what always very wise. Always very wise, Daniel. And I had no idea you would have ever thought that you didn't belong at a certain point in your life, because you come across as not someone that thinks that. But it's funny, because how many of us think of that about someone else on this call? And I can admit, I've had so many times I feel like I don't belong. Even at this very moment, if I'm being candid, there's a lot of people on here that I look up to so much. I look up to all of you, but there's certain people here that just, oh my gosh, it blows me away that they're here, and how I'm not at their level. But to your reminder, we all have a uniqueness. And so that's what we bring to the table that no one else can bring to the table. So thank you for that reminder, because I actually needed that right now. So thank you. Before we move forward, there was something very important, because Deborah had a beautiful picture she wanted to share, and I want to make sure and share that picture. So let me find it really quickly and see if I can share my screen. Do you want to speak about the picture, Deborah?
Yeah, sure. I spoke about fear in my story towards the end.
Can you
and
see
this
it?
is a picture.
Okay.
So this is a picture 5 years ago. I'm on this speedboat with my daughter Selma, who's 5 at the time. And we're on holiday in the south of France. And she was scared, the poor little one. And because obviously speedboats, they speed fast. And I said to her, Selma, whenever you feel scared, just laugh. And so we laughed all the way. And this is the message that I wanted to finish off my story with, which is, fear will be there anyway. And it's up to each one of us to decide how we can harness it and to work with it or work through it. And rather than it dictating our choices and our thinking, we could try the other way around and try and harness that fear. Thank you, Andrea.
That's beautiful. Beautiful daughter as well. Let me get back. Okay. Thank you, Deborah, for sharing.
Thank you, Andrea.
Next, we have Wayne. Wayne is another one of those brilliant minds that I've met through Twitter, and I've followed his work. Never actually got to speak with him until, was it last week? We spoke maybe for 5 minutes, because he immediately said yes to come on this rally, and he just wanted to talk about it. And that's the first time I heard his voice. And it's just, from what I've heard in those 5 minutes, you can tell like he's so passionate about what he does, and passionate about sharing his expertise, and passionate about making a difference into the world. I mean, he portrays strength in his words to me. He also has been in the Dare to Be Twitter chats, pops in every once in a while, and also his contributions are just solid, and his insights always make me go back and think. So it's such a pleasure for you to be here, Wayne. I really enjoy seeing you.
Hey, thank you, Andrea. And I just also want to thank you for thinking of me and bringing me into this. And I want to say, sitting here and listening to the speakers who have already gone before me, it's been like being on a thirsty day and then just getting that really cool drink of water. It's been amazing. You guys are really filling up my cup today. And so I can't wait to get all the way through this, that there's actually more coming. I'm like, I feel overflowing right now. I can't imagine by the time we're all done here this morning. So thank you, Andrea. My story took place several years ago, but it's ongoing. And the story started out with my wife and I, my wife Sharon and I, who are partners in business and in life. Both felt like something was missing. At the time, we were running our business together, and our business was prosperous. It was doing quite well. It was growing. We were able to even do some community things through our business. And we were serving in church, and that was going well as well. We each were involved in various ministries. But just separately, we both felt like there was a higher calling. There was something else. As pretty, if you look from the outside of the picture, you think, oh, this is a great picture. They're, serving, they're working, they have kids and a family, a nice home, all of the little trappings that people would look at from the outside looking in. But inside both of us, we both knew like we're being called to something, but we couldn't figure it out. So to figure it out, we began fasting and praying and seeking God about it. And eventually, my wife actually had a strange dream wherein someone sent her on a mission. And the long story of the mission is we decided that where we felt we were being called was to step outside of the walls of our church and to go into the community and to begin serving people where they are. It began with a small food closet actually in the back of our church. And what happened was people just started coming. And here it was, we were in this nice church in this nice suburb, and no one knew that there was this huge food insecurity problem right where we were. At the time, we were living in Palm Beach County, one of the richest counties in the country, probably. And all of these people were showing up seeking food. And so as the people came, the mission grew. And in no time, we grew out of that space into a space in the community. And the ministry went from not only feeding people, but we began helping some of those people who had fallen on hard times to pick up jobs, to upgrade their resume, to upgrade their lives. We ran a clothing closet where folks could get interview clothes in order to dress for success, in order to go on interviews. And it just became a 360 ministry to the person, helping people at their lowest points to regain their dignity, regain purpose. And so it was wonderful, and it was challenging, and it was hard at times, but it just did such great work in the community. And around the same time, a friend of mine, really kind of my best friend in the world, he also had a ministry. And his ministry was, he took money out of his own pocket, right? And he would put out an email address and a PO box and different ways that people could write in. And let's say you were a person who was down on your luck, or a single mom or someone, and you couldn't pay your utilities or your electric bill or whatever the case is, you could write in, and he would look at the people who were writing in. He'd sift through it, and then he would take care of the bill. And so he was doing that for a while, but there came a day where for both of us, for our ministry, as our ministry continued to grow into all of these different areas of service, and also my friend was doing his ministry as well. And I was talking to him over the phone one day, and he just felt so discouraged. And it was totally unlike him, because he's just a really optimistic person, always trying to help, always out there, always leading. And but he was just really down, and he was feeling like quitting. And I tried to encourage him as best as a friend can, and tried to be there for him. But I knew maybe he was coming near to the end of this, and it just coincided with a time where our ministry had run out of money. And my wife, who was the chief executive officer, the one who was running this thing that had grown from this little closet into this big ministry in the community, she was down and really depressed about it. And I remember just seeing her feeling so down. I went into my own pocket for $1,000, and I said, honey, here's $1,000. I don't know what this can do, really. I know this is not going, this is a Band-Aid, if so much. Maybe we could, pay the electric bill and the utilities for a month, and maybe that might feed a few families. And that's not going to solve your problems, but I just want to see you cheer up. I just want to see you hope again and smile again. And she really thanked me, and it was a big boost. She did cheer her up a lot. But I remember when I gave her the $1,000, she turned to me and she said, "Give your friend half. Give him $500." And I said, "Honey, listen, you're probably down like $50,000 or $100,000. I don't know what the full amount that's needed for our ministry to go forward. We're going to crash and burn. I know 1,000 can't do that much, but what are you going to do with $500? What is he going to do with $500? Are you sure?" And she would not be convinced otherwise. Give him five. I know it. I feel it. I feel like the Lord is speaking to me. He's saying, do not keep that money. Give him $500. Okay, honey, I'll give him $500. And I did. I gave her $500 and I gave him $500. And within 48 hours, my wife was invited out to to lunch by a lady that we've known for a long time. And she brought her mother along, and they sat across from each other at lunch. And the lady started asking my wife a lot of very pointed questions about her ministry. Well, okay, what's your vision? Where are you going with this? What's your value statement? What do you believe? What do you try? And so my wife was walking her through how we were trying to restore dignity to people, how we were trying to give people their purpose back and to build up the community, not to be the ones complaining about it, but to be a part of the solution, et cetera, and explaining the whole vision. And the lady reaches down into her pocketbook and she pushes an envelope across the table to my wife. And, we're obviously an envelope, anyone in the ministry, and my wife opens it, and it's a check for $50,000 that lady had written to our cause. And naturally, we were blown away. And that went into perpetuating our work in the community, forward. I mean, it saved the day. But ultimately, I want to share just 3 points from this story, because I've told this story before, and I know there's always some people in the audience says, well, it's coincidental, that lady would have given the money anyway, et cetera. It's interesting because afterwards we discussed the gift, and the lady said that she had actually heard months before that she should have given this gift. She felt like it had been impressed upon her, but it was a big amount. And so her and her husband were kind of going back and forth as to, are we going to give this $50,000? There was that struggle, right? When you know the thing that you're being impressed to do it, but it's having the courage to step forward and into the moment and to do the thing that you're being called to do, or that your heart is telling you to do. So they struggled for a while, but eventually they said yes, and they did it. And I don't believe it's coincidental at all. I don't. I think it is because my wife took of what she had and shared it. And she took $500, and within 48 hours, that was restored to her 100-fold. And from that, I want to leave you guys with 3 things from this story. The first thing is, you've got to think beyond yourself. You see, the cure for unhappiness is helping someone else. I know Andrea mentioned we met on Twitter, and I met a few of you guys on Twitter. I just saw someone, a young person in my Twitter feed, put out a tweet. I can't remember what it is. I didn't save it, but the tweet of the Twitter was, will someone please help me and explain to me what to do about this? And she said, effing unhappiness. And I don't know this person, but I responded back to her and I said, listen, find someone who is worse off than you and help that person. The cure, or one of the cures, one way to deal with unhappiness is to find someone who is worse off than you and help that person. It is just difficult to be down. It's just difficult to be depressed. It's difficult to be disappointed while you're helping someone else get up. It just is. There is something that is spiritual about it. There's something that is cathartic about it. There's something that is healing about it. There's something powerful. There's power in giving. A lot of times we think it's in taking, and we're all about taking. But when you give, there's just something that you just intangible about that. And so that's the first thing. The second thing I want to share with you guys is we always have something to share. Sometimes we feel we've got nothing. We're down to the last this, or we're down to the last that. But there is always something to share. I gave my wife the $1,000, and $1,000 was not going to solve her problems. She was probably in the natural mind feeling like I'd hurt myself by giving up half of that money. It's foolish in the natural mind. But she broke off of her little that she had. And then I believe, it is my belief, that God restored her 100 times for her generosity, right? And so just look around. You've got something to share. You've got time to share. You've got wisdom to share. You've got love to share. And you probably have a few bucks you can share too. So there's always something to share. And then third, generosity begets generosity. I really believe that. If you want more in your life, give more, right? I think the Bible says, ask and you will receive. It also says, give and you will receive. And so whatever you want in your life, give that away. You want more love in your life, give that away. You want more people to care for you, give care away. You want to feel abundance in your life, spiritually, materially, in every way, give it away. And that thing will come back to you. And especially in this day and time where we are in COVID and all those things concerned with that, what was going on in Texas where Andrea is. Friends, it's either a time to complain or it is a massive opportunity to step into generosity. And that's my challenge for all of us here today. God bless you, Andrea. Thanks for having me speak.
Whoa, that was amazing, Wayne. Thank you. And is your wife in the audience? Is Sharon your wife?
Is she in the audience? I can't. If you see a Sharon, that's probably her.
Oh, wonderful. I'm so glad she was here. Beautiful. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that example. I mean, you really walk your talk, and you're absolutely right. I love what you said about begin serving people where they are and having the courage to step forward and be in the moment. I can totally relate to that. And agree that when you are feeling unhappy, when you're feeling like life is not fair, when you're feeling that, why is this happening to me? You're absolutely right. It's a shift in the mindset. And when you start thinking that perhaps life is not just about you, perhaps your life is you being and living what you're truly meant to be so you can help others. And because you're holding yourself back through your pity or your unhappiness, you're not able to help the person that's meant to listen to your message that day or meant to see your smile. So if we change our mindset that way, that's another motivator to, hey, I need to be me today. Forget what my mind's trying to tell me. I need to follow my heart. So that's pretty powerful. Thank you for sharing. Really great to have you, Wayne. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ashley. Where's Ashley? There's Ashley. I'm so excited to have Ashley. Ashley, I feel like we connect on a soul level. Even before she even spoke, I just felt an instant connection toward her. I don't know what it is. Maybe our souls are speaking to each other before we even speak to each other as people. But Ashley, I've met through the Soul Shifters, Stephen the Sadie's Soul Shifters community. And she is just a light of strength, of courage, of perseverance. Nothing stops Ashley. I mean that in a good way, because she has these amazing values. She has this insight and this purpose in her, which I feel is so strong that I don't even know if she realizes how strong it is and how bright it is for others to see, and that they're actually feeling it. But Ashley is truly a force, a very positive force. That she's so creative. She's an artist, but she's also does so much to help others and raise awareness. So Ashley, I am so excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me. You got me all emotional in the beginning, so I gotta like calm down a little bit, but I'm so happy to be here right now. My story starts from childhood. I'm going on a journey of just why I am the person I am today, and the big realization for who I am and why I am who I am. I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I have 5 sisters, and our family grew up in a household with 2 parents who had disabilities. My father is hard of hearing and my mother is deaf. So we were raised with sign language as our primary language. And we learned 2 communities, the deaf community and the hearing community. In addition to that, my father was a pastor. His his focus was on educating, inspiring people to have the word of God, especially the deaf community. So he was a huge advocate for just inspiring minds and motivating our community. So growing up as a pastor's kid, as well as in the deaf community, was a really engaging and thought-provoking way to live. In addition to that, there was also pressure of being a pastor's kid, because you're measured by, you have to represent your father. You have to represent and be the best representation of who your father is as a pastor, and make sure you live a life that's very on path, towards God and living in a godly way. But through that, I've been through a lot of trauma. So the trauma made me question God, where it was just kind of like, why would I go through these things if I'm supposed to be, a godly child and things like that? And I, for a long time, resented being a child of a pastor, just because those expectations put a lot of pressure on not only me, but on my sisters. But it taught me to be who I am today in a positive way, where I look back and I'm just like, everything that I went through is something that I was supposed to go through. And it teaches me resilience, it teaches me perseverance, and it teaches me strength. Last year was from my childhood. When I got older, I ran away. I ran away from my parents. So not in a way, just in an emotional way. As soon as I graduated high school, I just moved out of state. I moved to Houston, and I started my life over at 18, and I didn't turn back. I just decided I'm going to live the way I want to live. I'm going to do things the way I want to do things. I'm going to make my own decisions. I'm an adult, and I figured it out, and since then, I just was always that way. I focused on my career. I focused on getting my degree. I focused on just making sure I was an individual, because growing up with 5 sisters, you're also compared to each other a lot. Your grades, as an athlete, as everything, you're just constantly compared. So for me, it was a journey of just trying to find who I am as a person by myself without my sisters or comparisons. As I got older and started my career, I moved to Brooklyn, New York to continue my journey and continue my career. And I found a home in Brooklyn, and I found excitement in Brooklyn, and started a really good career in Brooklyn, and was excited for that journey. But last year with COVID, I had to face family, my mother being deaf and dealing with COVID, everyone with masks on, and it changed the behaviors of people just because of the mask. And in the deaf community, it hinders them from having a job. It hinders them from being able to go grocery shopping. It hinders them from doing so many things. And I had to get that phone call from my mom, where she had a severe anxiety attack, where she had memory loss. She had severe anxiety to a point I've never seen her before. And so that was a huge test for me, to go back home and look after my mother, and build our relationship that we did not have, for years. So I was just like, this is a huge test, because I didn't have that relationship with my mom growing up, based off of the traumas that went on in my life and being a pastor's kid. So it was just, I had to face her and my father in a way that was a huge test for me. But in that, I was able to grow that relationship with my mother. I had to decide on either going back to work or taking care of my mother. And that was a natural instinct, is to just look after my mother no matter what. So my entire life transitioned, but it was the best decision I made, because it brought me closer to my mom, and it made me realize that through my journey, I've always needed her. So I'm just grateful that now I have that relationship with her at the age that I am now. And I'm just grateful that building that relationship with her helps me release and be the person I am today. And that's why I am a deaf advocate, and I have started companies to teach kids art and sign language because it's a tribute to my mother. It's a tribute to our relationship. It's a tribute to my childhood. It's a tribute to everything that I grew up doing. And so it's just my way of giving back to the community because it's a way that has healed me. My mother is an artist as well. She's the reason I am an artist to this day. So like I said, everything I do now is a tribute to my mother because she, at the end of the day, raised 6 daughters, you know, and we're all doing well and we're all, you know, okay. And at the end of the day, when the community didn't believe that deaf parents and hard of hearing parents can take care of 6 daughters, they definitely did. And I'm just so inspired by who they are today and their passion and purpose. And that's why I continue to just try and live the way they just always encouraged me to be. So thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Did you see all the hearts?
Yeah.
There's a lot of love coming toward you. Either people can relate to what you're saying, they've been in that situation. People that you may not even know that are on this call for the first time that you're seeing are relating to you, are feeling for you. So by you having the courage to share that story, which none of us would have known, it's making a difference in people's life right now, and perhaps they're going to be touched someone else. And you had so many, I mean, you had choices along the way. You could have just let the journey define you, but you decided to believe in the journey, but also make it your own. And you had that inner courage to do so. And you followed your heart through it, not let others dictate perception or other people tell you how you should live it. So I'm really proud of you. I'm really proud of you. I wanted to mention, and I can't believe we're pretty much halfway through this, but I wanted to mention all speakers, please, or anyone else here. I know there's so many people on this call that are leading movements, have their own communities, are just here to listen to others. Please put your contact information there. Please put how we can find you. I've had some people individually send me messages just now. How can they join Humans First? If someone can put the Humans First website there. How can they join the Soul Shifters for Stephen DeSades? Stephen, if you could put the information there. So Houston Writers Guild, same thing. So if you can share that information, there's huge interest in working with each other, with the people that are currently here. So thank you guys for being here. And thank you, Ashley. It's truly an honor every time to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we have Syed. Did I pronounce your name right, Syed? Syed is...
Yes.
Okay, Syed is another example of, we've known each other on Twitter for a long time, but this is the first time we're speaking. And he's also one that joins the Dare to Be chats on Tuesdays. And I'm very proud of him because he just recently started his own chat, leaders chat, every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. So that takes huge commitment and it takes huge passion. So I'm really proud of what you're doing. He's always has so grounded in his responses on Twitter and his words of wisdom, but also he's incredibly motivating. I've followed you on Twitter and what you do outside the chats, and you have this deep passion as well, to just make sure people are okay and letting them and reminding them to keep going with their journey through words of inspiration. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Syed. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Andrea, for inviting me to this wonderful chat. And the stories so far have been so emotional and so valuable that I might have missed if I'm not part of this journey, actually. And my story started in India because I was educated and born in India, and then I worked in Middle East. And I moved back to Toronto in 2017. And I always have found a reason to help out because I believe that if you want to be helped, it's the first requirement that you have to help someone so that you can be helped or you can get a help. Okay, so I do a lot of activities in terms of philanthropy side. I do a lot of crowdfunding activities. So, and also being in project management enthusiast, I write for projectmanagement.com, some articles, I do some webinars for them. And I also actively work with our local chapter in Toronto. And after moving here in Toronto in 2017, what I had noticed is most of the new immigrants are struggling because they are making a big career shift, big transition from their back home countries to a new country, and everything changes for them. The job search methodology changes and everything. So I started mentoring. So that was one journey of mine. So a small story from mentoring side, and one story from our small exercise that we are doing in back home in India. So I'll just combine these two, and I will try to reflect on the power of you. So when we start to believing in ourselves, how we can transform the things, right? So I started mentoring with our PMI local chapter. So the big challenge that we face is people who are coming out for job search, people who are trying to have a career shift. They are so demotivated. Sometimes they are so self-doubters actually, because they have made a change. They have got a gap in a resume, so they're not believing themselves. So our journey is first to connect with them and motivate them with words, because we're not trying to say them that we will find you a job on next day kind of thing, but our journey becomes a kind of first priority is to motivate with them positivity around. We have to just ensure that they feel very much positive about themselves. They feel very much positive about their skills. They feel very much positive about every day, because job search is a full-time job, and every day it actually takes out a lot of energy from you, because candidates keep on applying for the jobs. They don't get a hear back. They don't get calls for the interview. So they are going through this high and lows, and being weather in Canada being a very cold country. So you always have these mood swings in the candidate. So you speak on day one with the candidate, he's very excited, and day two on the same day at different interval, candidate is very demotivated and he feels very depressed with himself, So our journey is to get them on the first track, is to get them on this positive kind of bandwidth. So we will always encourage them that it's nothing about you, it's about the market. Market is a bit slow. So be motivated and keep on doing the kind of good work. And then we try to place a kind of opportunities for them. We just try to help them with fine tuning their resumes, and then we try to network with our contacts and everything. So motivating them to this level and then taking them back with this journey. This is a kind of engagement that various organizations takes at their own speed, because some of them give us like six hours of mentoring opportunities, and some give us 10 hours of mentoring opportunities, and it becomes imperative on us to how we treat it. So our first job is to connect with the person, to understand the person very well, and to build that trust bridge on the day one itself, and make sure that we keep them motivated, we keep their job search itself motivated, and that's how we are trying to bring up a kind of impact. So right now, I work for across 4 organizations within Toronto. So most of my Saturdays are packed, because at a time I deal with 5 to 6 mentees actually. So I'm just trying to give it back to the community by this kind of mentorship work. And one more small exercise that we started was back home in India, actually, from the place where I live. There are a lot of people who don't have the breadwinners in their home. Actually, they are women who have been left out. For example, they don't have the basic necessities or the means to fulfill their basic necessities. So 3 of us, like my friend in US, myself, and 1 friend in back home, we 3 people. We just came on a Zoom call 2 years back, and we just discussed that let's find out how many families we have in our street exactly. We just made a list of those people, and we said, let's contribute something for them. So for last 2 years, what we have been doing is that we have some donors back here in Canada, back home in India, and also in US, for example. So we make sure that the necessities required for these families, the groceries, the required medicines for them, prescription drugs mainly, all these reach out to them every month, okay? And we try to give it after the sunset, because they don't feel, or no one else is seeing that we have been helping someone, kind of thing. And even though they don't feel ashamed, or they don't feel kind of a feeling that we have been helped. So we have been doing this exercise from last 2 years now. The good learning for us was, we started it as an experiment. Actually, we thought that let's do a pilot of 6 months and let us see how we will work on. But gradually, when we completed the first 6 months pilot, we're seeing that a small contribution from us is making a big difference on the ground. Someone is sending us a thank you note, saying us that you were able to feed us for a 1 month, and we are thankful for you. And keeping our example, we just extended it forward, and we completed our 1 year, and now we are into our 3rd year of operations now. Based on everything which is being done, today we see that there are other people who got inspired by our experiment, and they are trying to replicate the same kind of thing in their streets, kind of. So the power in us can inspire. The power in us can motivate the people. And it's not about what you can do and what you are limited to do, kind of thing. When we are stretching our boundaries, we are trying to test ourselves, and we are trying to create new set of examples for others. Maybe I had stretched myself from my comfort zone to my stress zone. Then I'm trying to achieve something good for myself, and I'm also trying to inspire someone. So we are very powerful, and there is a lot of power in us, and we can reflect all this power with every act of kindness that we can do, whether it's a small act of kindness or whether it's a big act of kindness. Every act of kindness matters for us. So in general, we are powerful. Thanks a lot.
Wow, power seems to be the recurring theme today. I love that, Syed. And the power in us can inspire and motivate. So true. And it's amazing what you've been doing and building. So thank you for doing that for the world. I'm glad you're following your heart, and keep doing
Thanks.
that. You have really a heart of gold. So I didn't know that about you. So that's amazing.
And thanks for that.
So last but not least, we have Kelly. Kelly and I just connected recently, a couple months ago. I mean, we've seen each other online and on shows, but we just spoke a few days ago for the first time. And Kelly and I have a lot in common, I felt from the very start. She's the type that is so into wanting to make a difference. She has a story, but she tends to be in the back of things, like behind the camera, or behind, or leading the charge, but behind the scenes. And that is so me as well. So many people were rooting her on when they found out that she's going to tell her story today. It's like, it's about time. The world needs to hear Kelly. And I am so excited and so honored and so humbled that you are here and we get to hear your story for the first time. Now, when I spoke with Kelly, she had this quote that blew me away. And I have so many journals that I've been looking for it for the hour before we started here, that I cannot find where I wrote it. And I told Kelly, I'm going to introduce you with that quote because I love it. So can you please say that quote?
I love that you can't find it.
No.
So something that it's been kind of a recent thing for me, but is a motto that I am living by. Through our transformation, others are transformed. Through our transparency, I think I said that wrong. Through our transparency, others are transformed. I've had a calling to tell my story for a while now, and I'm resistant. I resist. There's fear, there's imposter syndrome, there's fear of rejection. Oh, so much fear of rejection. I'm good at creating space for other people to tell stories, right? That's my thing. I'll create the space. I'm a producer, so I'll encourage other people to tell their stories. But sharing my story is hard. It's hard. Is it worth hearing? Or will I be rejected? I have put myself behind the camera my entire life. I am on the other end of the lens. I came into today not knowing what I was going to share and just kind of embracing whatever happens, happens. I love that the theme has been power, because this has been so empowering for me. Several of you shared things that you have overcome in your life, in years ago or in the last year. And I feel called to share something I like to use the word focusing on instead of struggling. I think our words are powerful, and I really want to be intentional about the words that I use so that I don't manifest and create a harder situation than I'm already in, right? So instead of saying what I'm struggling with, I'm going to say what I'm currently focusing on is overcoming that fear, is overcoming the fear of being vulnerable, of being transparent, of putting myself out there. Specifically, there's so many things I could share. Specifically, one of the things I'm focusing on is my worth. I grew up in a very conservative Christian home, and my worth was attached to my purity. You know, it was the whole save yourself for marriage. And I think there's value in that. But I was so attached to it that my existence, my entire being revolved around the fact that I was pure. And that stayed a major component in my life until I was 30. I got married right out of college to my first love. I waited to have sex until marriage. And then I stayed married. I was married for 13 years. I stayed married for 6 years after the marriage was over in a very toxic, abusive relationship, because that was the right thing to do, because that was my existence, the definition of who I was so wrapped up in that. My current focus is still revolving around that same topic, that fear of rejection, but now it's flipped. It's still around my sexuality, but now it's flipped. I suffered trauma. I suffered abuse. And so then I took my power back through sex. And now my worth is attached to my sexuality in a way that I think I've told myself, and I've written this story, that I'm only successful, desirable, worth anything because I'm sexy. And I had this conversation at dinner last night. it's this fear that if that's not who I am anymore, then there is nothing else to me. I know that's not true. I know my purpose in life. I know I'm here to be support for people. I'm a healer. My purpose is to heal the world. Yet I have this fear that if I'm not sexy, if I don't perform, if I don't present that side of me, then then what am I? Who am I? If I don't, I know that's not the truth. I know. That isn't true. That isn't true. And it is my current focus to constantly remind myself that that isn't true. That is built out of programming from when I was a child. It was built out of taking my power back. But I am more than that. I know I am more than that. I think it is so important that we learn how to transmute those feelings of fear into higher vibrations. And it starts by sharing. It starts by just speaking it. So I'm speaking it, saying out loud to a room full of strangers. I know I am worth more than that. I'm taking a step, my first step in transmuting that fear into love. I love myself. I know I'm worth more than that. And I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. Just to wrap it up, I have recently been in a phase of learning to be grateful for the pain, to be grateful for the conflict, because that's where growth is. Man, I've felt a lot of pain. I have been through some, as everyone has shared today, we have been through some stuff. But that's how we grow. I've learned to stop avoiding the conflict, to embrace it and to be grateful for it, because I know on the other end, I'm going to be a way better person. That's all I got.
Kelly, did you realize what you just did? That's huge. You shared your story. You shared. That took a lot of courage, a lot of strength. But it also is the first step to feeling more free, not only for yourself, but you made us feel like we can relate to you as well in our own ways. And I think you did absolutely walk your talk. Through our transparency, others are transformed. That's what you just did, because you sparked transformation in a lot of us right now in applying it to our own journeys. And now I have your quote on 2 journals, so I will not lose it. But I'm really proud of you, and hugely, but mostly hugely humbled and honored that you chose today to share your story here with us. I love, I mean, the way this ended is be grateful for the conflict, That is so powerful and such a great way to end this whole theme of power. I didn't know our theme was going to be power today. That's what surfaced. From the very beginning with Maxine, everyone else kind of putting that theme in there, whether they knew it or not, and to Kelly, amazing. I want to, the last couple minutes, I want to open it up to see if anyone has any words to share with any of the speakers, any questions, any thoughts, anything that they could relate to that really stuck to them. I just want to open it up. Or if any speakers want to say anything else.
I'd like to go first, and this is really out of character for me to do that, but I just wanted to really congratulate Kelly on finding the strength to have the vulnerability to share what you've just shared. And I saw Stephen's comments in the chat as well. I had the absolute honour on either the first or the second Worthy rally to share my own story of being an attempted murder victim myself. And during that, as I always say, it's never about me. It's my experience, but it's always every person in the audience's story to take with them what it is they need to take with them at that particular time that you're sharing that story. And what you've just done there is shared your story on behalf of everyone who's either not strong enough, not yet ready, or not able at the moment to share their own story, that are feeling like they're the only person in the world going through that. And by you doing what you've just done, you really are assuring them that they're not. So I just wanted to absolutely commend you for doing that, Kelly.
Thank you, Roger. Stephen, did you raise your hand? I don't know if you're speaking. You're on mute.
Oh, there you are. Sorry, I wasn't sure whether you did it or I did it. Hello, everyone. Kelly, one of the things that strikes me from what you said is, and I've put it in the comments, part of the reason this rally and all of Andrea's rallies are so powerful is every single time you share your story, almost immediately everyone else is referring and relating to theirs. Almost immediately. And for everyone who's inside of Desadeland and Soul Shifters, I'm constantly interweaving stories into how to and authority. And Melody and Andrea and Ashley know what that is. You can't heal anyone. You can only heal yourself and then enable others from that place. So every single thing that was shared by all the speakers today was them sharing their stories and all of us reacting and relating their story as the trigger to ours. So my best advice to you is the title of and the tag of sexy is the opinion of society on what your appearance might look like or whatever that means. But most people look into the mirror of life and ask someone else, who do you see? My job and what I do for a living is get people to look in the mirror and love what they see. You're beyond sexy, my lady. You are elegantly stunning and every conflict and every problem and every hardship has been sent because you've got the courage to do it. All that you have ever wanted and everything you've ever needed to get it is all you've ever been. That's it, Andrea.
So true. Beautiful words. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Roger. Anyone else have anything? If not, we're gonna go into one breakout room to get to know each other. Anyone else have anything? Okay. So with the time remaining, I'm going to put you guys in breakout rooms, which will be totally random. And I want to go, and I never know what the theme is going to be for breakout rooms until I listen to everything that's going on. So obviously the theme is going to be power. And I love, there's so many things to choose from, but I love how Kelly ended it is being grateful for the conflict. I want you to go into when you go into your breakout rooms, speak of a time about what conflict you are grateful for and how that has added to be the person you are today or who you're becoming. What conflict are you grateful for? And we'll do that for a few minutes and then I'll circle you guys back here. Sound good? Okay, let's do this around, oops, let's have 4 people. Oops. Okay, here we go. See you in a bit. Welcome back. Wow, that went by fast. So 5 minutes left. Anyone have any insights that were shared in their group? I heard some amazing conversations. Stephen, you came up in another group that they were mentioning your remarks about stories.
Do you want me to say something?
No, I think Wayne, you were referencing him.
No, just for that, everyone, and I think everyone's story enabled Kelly to share hers. And it was an example of Kelly realizing that, and I was saying in the group that I've just come from, your story represents one word in one sentence that could change one person's lifetime forever. So stop thinking you have to have an oratory and a great way of speaking, or have the eloquence of Wayne and the energy of Wayne. It's very appealing, but you just need to say one sentence, and that one sentence might contain the word "I love you." It might contain vulnerability, mindfulness, gratefulness, authenticity. We live in a society today, particularly after COVID, or during and hopefully after COVID, where everyone's immersed in that single word, but yet we've got to tell our story, and it's got to sound like a Steven Spielberg monologue. No, it doesn't. I'm on a mission to destroy doubt. I'm in a love affair with humanity, and my story of suicide and financial depression has now enabled me to be the biggest gift I can to you by making you look in the mirror and love what you see. There's my story. Go produce someone's life because of the opportunity of hardship that's created you to be you, Kelly. Go produce on that level and enable someone else by electrifying who they are because of what you discovered of who you are, because Syed and Wayne, Daniel, Maxine all shared their story, and Ashley shared their story so beautifully. Go share your story and enable others. Don't try and heal anyone, because you can't heal anyone unless they want to be healed. All you can do is heal yourself and be an example to others. Yes. That's it.
Well said. This quote just popped up on my phone, and I think it's meant to be. It says, "We all require healing at one point or another. Take time to heal your wounds. Take time to heal your heart. It does no good to think about running the marathon when you still have a broken foot." It just literally came on my phone. So that's the universe right there. So wonderful, wonderful, as always, inspiring 2 hours. I want to thank all of my speakers today, which we created the theme of power. You guys did. And look at this power, all these powerful messages that we leave with today. Any closing remarks from anyone? How did you feel about today? Any last words?
I had warned that the vibration would be like from here to here. And I just want to know if I'm the only one that is feeling it.
No, I totally feel it.
I'm speechless. The power has taken me. But it was really, really good. I loved every single story, and you all touched me. So, thank you, Andrea. I think you do a marvelous job here every month. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you for always being such a huge cheerleader. I appreciate you. I want to also extend the invitation. A couple of you have messaged me, but if you would like the opportunity to be a storyteller, a featured storyteller in an upcoming rally, we have these the last Saturday of every month. Please let me know. I would love to have you. There's the only qualification that you have to abide by is to be human, is to be you. I don't care if you've spoken at 100 stages. It doesn't matter. I want people to just speak from their heart, everyday people. So if you're interested, I mean, look at all the storytellers here today and how they impacted you and how they inspired you. You could do the same for others. I know you will do the same for others, because we each have a story that when we feel we're comfortable enough and it's our time to share it, we will know, because that's the time when others need to hear it. So let me know if you're interested ever. I hope we can all connect again next month. Last Saturday, we will be here again. Thank you again, all of you who joined, wonderful speakers, so much courage, power, bravery. And those of you that are in all these different time zones, I am humbled that you are here, even though it's an inconvenient time. I am humbled. Love you guys. Have a great rest of the weekend.
Thank you.